Breathe, Amina. You're holding your breath, Ngozi whispered, her grip just tight enough to pull Amina back from the chaotic spiral of her thoughts. Before her was a panel of judges with cold, impassive faces. Inside her head, 1,000 voices screamed, "They won't get it. They'll only see the numbers, the dilapidated buildings that need to be flattened. They won't see the soul of this place. They won't see it, Ngozi," her voice nearly broke. "They won't see the people. Then make them see," Ngozi urged, her voice low and fierce in Amina's ear. "Have you forgotten what Mr. Kalu told you? What did he say?" Ngozi's words were like a key turning in a lock. Instantly, the warm voice of her old mentor echoed in her mind, as clear as if he were standing right there. "Don't just draw walls, my child. Tell the story of the people who live behind them." A surge of warmth washed over Amina. She took a deep breath, not of anxiety, but of conviction. The fingers that had been strangling the rolled-up blueprints now loosened, deliberately. She was no longer the small, frightened architecture student. She was the storyteller of Isale Eko. She lifted her chin and walked decisively to the podium. The stage lights didn't blind her. Instead, they felt like a spotlight waiting for her to shine. She looked directly at the panel, her voice ringing out clear and strong, without a hint of hesitation. "Perhaps when you look at Isale Eko, you see only the decay that needs to be replaced. But when I look, I see a heart that has been beating for generations. And today, I am not here to present a project. I am here to invite you to listen to that heartbeat." Amina took another deep breath and clicked the remote. The screen behind her lit up, showing a detailed schematic of the Isale Eko district. No artistic photos, just hard data. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice crisp and steady. "Most redevelopment proposals for Isale Eko start with one question. What should we tear down first? My project begins with a different question. What should we preserve and uplift?" She switched to another slide, displaying the neighborhood's core issues. An overwhelmed drainage system, a patchwork electrical grid, a lack of public space. The problem with Isale Eko isn't its age. The problem is that its infrastructure hasn't kept up with its vitality. Therefore, our solution isn't to flatten it, but to give it a smart upgrade. She clicked again. An impressive before-after comparison appeared on the screen. The issue in Isale Eko isn't the homes themselves, but what's hidden beneath and between them, Amina explained clearly. "We will bury the entire electrical and drainage system. This will permanently solve the flooding and safety issues. Instead of an unofficial dump site, this area will become a small park, a green lung for the entire neighborhood." The next slide showed a bustling but clean and well-organized marketplace. "We will also upgrade the existing market, helping local vendors build brands for their own products. The economy will grow from within, rather than being replaced by outside corporations. We aren't just saving the buildings, we are saving a way of life, a community." She paused, looking directly at the panel, her eyes full of conviction. "This is not a costly plan to preserve the past. It is a smart and sustainable investment in the future." She finished her presentation cleanly and professionally. A few members of the panel nodded in approval, impressed by the project's logic and feasibility. But then, a cold voice cut through the positive atmosphere. "Very practical, Miss Okafor, but you've forgotten the most important number of all, profit." Chinedu Johnson rose to his feet, leisurely buttoning his suit jacket. "Your plan would take years to show results, with a modest rate of return. Meanwhile, a commercial complex in this exact location could recoup its investment within 5 years and generate 10 times the profit. Numbers don't lie." He looked directly at Amina, his gaze as sharp as a stock trader's. "Lagos is a marketplace, not a museum, and in a marketplace, decisions based on sentiment are always losing ones." This time, Chinedu's words didn't just attack Amina's ideals. They struck directly at her professionalism and business acumen. The confrontation had escalated to a new level, idealism versus profit. The showdown with Chinedu Johnson in the boardroom left Amina feeling unsettled, but also fiercely determined. She and Ngozi returned to their small office, really just a rented room above a fabric shop, with mixed emotions. "You did it," Ngozi exclaimed, tossing her handbag onto the old sofa. "You made them all listen, even that arrogant Chinedu. No matter how he acted, I bet he was impressed." Amina offered a weak smile, sitting down at her computer. I'm not so sure, Ngozi. His eyes. It wasn't the look of someone who was impressed. It was more like a shark sensing a rival in its territory. Forget about him, Ngozi waved dismissively. The panel saw your passion. We have a chance. Just then, a sharp ping sounded from Amina's computer. A new email from the competition committee. Her heart skipped a beat. They've replied, she said softly, her hand trembling slightly as she moved the mouse. The smile on her face vanished as she read the first few lines. The color drained from her face, her eyes wide with disbelief. What is it, Amina? Ngozi asked, rushing to her side. Is it bad news? Amina didn't answer, just shook her head numbly. She read the email aloud, her voice trailing off. Dear Miss Okafor, we were very impressed with your vision. However, concerns have been raised regarding the authenticity of your provided data. Specifically, the results of your community survey, which is the foundation of your preservation argument. We have received an independent report indicating serious discrepancies. What? Ngozi shouted. That's ridiculous. I helped you enter and double-check every number myself. Our data is clean. Amina scrolled down. There was an attached link. She clicked it. It led to an article that had just been published on a reputable Lagos business news site. The massive headline hit them like a physical blow. EkoCorp report reveals Isale Eco residents desire modernization, not a living museum. Below were eye-catching charts, professional-looking statistics, and quotes from a few residents claiming they wanted a shopping mall and jobs more than they wanted to keep their old houses. The article concluded that any project based on the desire for preservation was going against the actual will of the people. It didn't mention Amina by name, but the target was painfully obvious. EkoCorp, Amina said through gritted teeth. They're our biggest competitor. They submitted a design for a modern complex too. This is no coincidence, Ngozi said, her voice laced with anger. The timing of this article, right after your presentation, they had this ready to go. This was a calculated attack. Amina leaned back in her chair, feeling dizzy with shock and fury. They weren't just attacking her project, they were attacking her integrity, her honesty. They were painting her as a naive romantic who had fabricated data to serve her own ideals. The competition was no longer about public debate. It had become a shadow war where those with power and money were willing to play dirty to eliminate their rivals. She stared at the screen, where the EkoCorp article remained, defiant. The initial shock began to fade, replaced by a cold, burning resolve. They want to play dirty, she muttered. Fine, I'll show them the truth. After the initial shock, Amina and Ngozi threw themselves into the fight to clear their names. They returned to Isale Eco, going door to door, collecting signatures and filming short video interviews. They had the truth in their hands, the heartfelt confirmations from residents that they supported Amina's project. But the truth got them nowhere. They sent the evidence to the competition committee, only to receive a cold, automated reply stating the matter was under review. They tried to contact journalists, but no one dared to go up against EkoCorp, a real estate behemoth. Every door was slammed in their faces. It's useless, Amina, Ngozi said wearily after a week of running around in circles. We have the truth, but they have the power and the money. They've created a different story, and the whole city believes it. Amina sat motionless in front of her computer, staring at the silent video files. She felt a helplessness she had never known before. Her ideals and her persistence seemed so small, so laughably naive against a ruthless media machine. Just then, a dry ping echoed in the quiet room. A new email appeared. The sender was an anonymous address, no subject line. Amina was about to delete it, assuming it was spam, but something urged her to open it. Inside was just a single, short, cold line of text. The reserve bar. Tonight. 9 p.m. Find Femi Adebayo. His weakness is horse racing. Amina read the line over and over. Her heart began to pound. What is that? Ngozi asked, leaning over. Is it a trap? Delete it, Amina. That sounds dangerous. Maybe, Amina whispered, but her eyes had changed. The fire she thought had been extinguished was suddenly rekindled. But it's also the only thing we have right now. They think they've backed us into a corner, but they don't know that when a person has nothing left to lose, they'll do anything. She shot to her feet, the earlier exhaustion gone, replaced by a cold resolve. You're right. We can't confront EkoCorp head-on, Amina said to Ngozi, so we'll attack their weakest link. That night, Amina went to the reserve alone. She had no specific plan, just a name and a weakness. She quickly spotted Femi Adebayo, a portly, middle-aged man bragging loudly at the bar. Mustering all her courage, she approached him and struck up some small talk about horse racing, then cleverly mentioned a past race-fixing scandal. The smug look on Femi's face instantly vanished, replaced by panic. The man began to sweat. Amina knew she'd hit a nerve. She switched on her phone's voice recorder and continued the conversation. When she left the bar, she held the ultimate weapon in her hand, a recording of Femi, in his panicked state, accidentally admitting that the EkoCorp survey results were just to make the numbers look a little better. She didn't know who sent the email, but she knew that someone, from the shadows, had handed her a knife, and she hadn't hesitated to use it. Femi Adebayo's recording created a seismic shock. The Lagos Chronicle ran a massive headline, and EkoCorp could no longer hide. Their project was disqualified from the competition in disgrace, and Amina's project, Lagos Heartbeat, was officially admitted into the final round. The victory was spectacular. Amina became a phenomenon, a David who had taken down Goliath. She and Ngozi celebrated in their small office, their laughter echoing late into the night. For the first time, they felt their dream was truly within reach. But in the cutthroat business world of Lagos, nobody believes in fairy tales. A young, unknown architect couldn't possibly take down EkoCorp on her own. There had to be a powerful force behind her, and so the whispers began. The rumors started in the anonymous comment sections of online articles, then spread to the conversations in upscale bars. Their logic was simple. Who stood to gain the most from EkoCorp's disqualification? Chinedu Johnson, who had publicly challenged Amina, creating the perfect smokescreen to hide their collaboration. Chinedu Johnson. The story was woven together perfectly. Chinedu was secretly backing Amina, feeding her information to eliminate his biggest rival. Now, in the final round, he could easily take over her project or defeat an inexperienced opponent. Amina wasn't David. She was just a pawn in a powerful man's game. Amina felt the change in how people looked at her. At an industry networking event, congratulatory handshakes were now accompanied by knowing winks. Instead of asking about her design, they hinted at her special relationship. Miss Okafor is truly talented, one elderly investor told her, his eyes glancing towards Chinedu on the other side of the room. With such a powerful patron, your future is certainly very bright. The comment was like a slap in the face. The victory she had fought for with sweat, tears, and sheer audacity was being dismissed as a handout. Her hard work was completely negated. She wasn't a talented architect. She was just Chinedu's girl. The bitterness and pressure made her withdraw. She threw herself into finalizing the project for the finals, often pulling all-nighters alone, brushing off any inquiries, and the first person to feel that change was Ngozi. "You've been acting strange lately, Amina," Ngozi said one evening, bringing food to the office only to find Amina still glued to the screen. "You don't tell me anything anymore. I called you all day, and you didn't pick up." "I was busy," Amina replied curtly, not looking up. "I know you're busy, but we've always done everything together." Ngozi's voice began to crack with hurt. "You're meeting with suppliers alone. You're going to events alone. You're facing these rumors alone. I feel like I'm an outsider on our own project." Amina sighed, her exhaustion making her impatient. "You wouldn't understand, Ngozi. It's not that simple anymore." That remark was the spark that ignited all of Ngozi's pent-up frustration. "Wouldn't understand? I was the one who stayed up all night with you, the one who went door to door to clear your name. Or is it that now that you have your powerful connections, you don't need a friend like me anymore?" "What are you talking about?" Amina snapped, her voice rising with hurt. "Am I talking nonsense when the whole city is gossiping about you and Chinedu Johnson, and your own best friend is kept completely in the dark?" Ngozi said, tears welling in her eyes. "I feel like I've been pushed aside, Amina." A heavy silence fell over the room. Amina looked at her best friend, realizing that while she was so busy fighting the ghosts outside, she had unintentionally pushed away her only ally. The storm of rumors wasn't just attacking her reputation, it was beginning to destroy their friendship. She had won the battle against EkoCorp, but now she was in danger of losing everything. Meanwhile, in another tower in Lagos, Chinedu walked into his father's top-floor office. The air in here always felt suffocating. The elder Mr. Johnson, a man whose hair had turned silver but whose eyes were still sharp as a razor, sat behind a colossal desk, flipping through a file. "Sit," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. He didn't look up. "I've read the reports. You're letting a minor architectural project and a no-name girl influence business decisions." "Father, it's a project with potential," Chinedu replied, keeping his voice even. "Potential?" Mr. Johnson finally looked up, and his gaze sent a chill down Chinedu's spine. "I see the potential for losses, the potential for scandal. The whole city is buzzing about my son backing some architect. The Johnson name is being associated with a charity project instead of billion-naira deals. You are weakening our image. I am merely diversifying our portfolio." "Don't you dare use that business jargon on me," his father interrupted, his voice like steel. "I know what you're doing. You're taken with this girl, and look where it's gotten you. Her sponsor was just arrested for money laundering. That ship is sinking, and you intend to go down with it." He pushed another file across the desk toward Chinedu. It was a plan for a hostile takeover of EkoCorp now that their stock had plummeted. A ruthless and incredibly profitable move. "This is pure business, Chinedu. No sentiment, no attachments. I want you to publicly announce your withdrawal from any involvement with Miss Okafor's project. Focus on the EkoCorp acquisition. Show Lagos that the Johnson family doesn't play children's games." Chinedu looked at the file, then at his father. This was an ultimatum. A choice between the path his father had laid out for him, a path of absolute profit and cold power, and another path he had only just begun to explore, one that held space for ideals and conviction. "Are you asking me to abandon her?" Chinedu asked directly. "I am asking you to choose our family and our empire," Mr. Johnson replied, without a hint of compromise. "Choose, Chinedu." At the exact same moment, two people in two different parts of Lagos were pushed to the brink. Amina had lost her faith, was doubted by her friends, and her passion project was threatened with cancellation. Chinedu faced a grim choice: follow his family's legacy or listen to the new voice in his heart. The storm had reached its peak. The press conference room today felt even more suffocating than the first presentation. This time, Amina hadn't come to present a dream. She had come to fight for its survival. News that her project had been suspended had spread everywhere, and the crowd of reporters had gathered like vultures, ready to tear apart what was left of her reputation. She sat alone on the small stage, a blank projection screen behind her. Ngozi was there, but she stood silently in a distant corner, her face a mask of worry and regret. The fight they'd had the other day had created an invisible chasm between them. "Miss Okafor, do you have any comment on the connection between your project and the Horizon Fund?" a reporter asked the moment she sat down. "Was your project just a front for money laundering?" another added. Amina took a deep breath, refusing to let the chaos unnerve her. She took the microphone, her voice ringing out clear and steely, cutting through the murmurs. "Integrity doesn't need a comment. It needs to be proven." She clicked the remote. The screen behind her lit up, not with an architectural drawing, but with a detailed bank statement. "This is the complete financial history of the Lagos Heartbeat project," she declared. "The one and only donation we received from the Horizon Fund was for 2 million naira, the equivalent of about $1,500 US. That money was used transparently to pay for printing materials and the competition's entry fee. Every invoice, every receipt is right here." She projected each receipt, one by one, clear down to the last digit. "The total budget for my project is 500 million naira. That 2 million naira accounts for only 0.4%. To suggest that my project is a money laundering front is like saying an elephant is hiding behind a bush. It's ludicrous." She looked directly at the crowd, her eyes blazing. "I do not know Mr. Tayo Bankole. I am just a young architect who sent grant applications to dozens of places and was lucky enough to have one of them say yes. What they did is their crime, not mine. Don't let one person's crimes tarnish another's honest dream. Her transparency and fierce defense silenced the room, but the silence was broken by a skeptical voice. Your words are convincing, but how can we believe that you, an unknown architect, could manage such a large project all by yourself? It was a loaded question, one that dredged up all the rumors of a backer. Amina froze. She knew she couldn't answer that question on her own. Just then, a door at the back of the room opened. Every head turned. Chinedu Johnson, dressed in an impeccable suit, walked in. He didn't head for the stage, but strode directly to the front row reserved for the press, taking a microphone from the hand of a stunned reporter. "I'll answer that question," Chinedu's voice boomed, full of authority and finality. The entire room held its breath. "It's true that Miss Okafor is not alone," he said, looking directly at the reporter who had asked the question. "Because she has me." A collective gasp went through the crowd. Chinedu held up a hand for silence. "I have followed this project from the very beginning. At first, I was her rival. I believed that profit was paramount. But she proved me wrong. She showed me that the value of a city isn't in its skyscrapers, but in its heart and soul." He turned, his gaze meeting Amina's on the stage. She was speechless. His eyes no longer held any calculation, only sincerity. "The Johnson Corporation hereby officially declares we will be the primary investors in the Lagos Heartbeat project. We are not doing this because of any personal relationship. We are doing this because it is an outstanding project, a worthy investment in the future of Lagos. Anyone who doubts the integrity of this project is doubting my judgment." The declaration was a bombshell. It didn't just dispel the rumors, it was a powerful validation of the project's worth. Chinedu wasn't just publicly supporting her. He was betting his own reputation, and that of the Johnson dynasty, on her. The next day, the judging panel made their final decision. With Amina's financial transparency and Chinedu's ironclad endorsement, the Lagos Heartbeat project was officially declared the winner. They had won, but it came at a steep price. Amina knew that from now on, her success would be forever linked to Chinedu Johnson's name, whether she liked it or not. As for Chinedu, when he walked out of the press conference, he received a single text message from his father. "You are no longer my heir." They had won the right to build their project, but both had been forced to sacrifice their most important relationships to get there. The groundbreaking ceremony for the Lagos Heartbeat project took place on a sun-drenched morning. The smell of fresh paint and the sound of construction machinery replaced the quiet stillness of the old Isale echo. Amina stood at the podium, no longer the trembling young woman from her first presentation, but a confident woman, a symbol. She didn't talk about blueprints or structures, she talked about hope. "Today, we are not just building walls," she said, her voice echoing across the square where residents had gathered. "We are rebuilding trust. Trust that the past and the future can coexist. Trust that the voice of the community will always be heard." She became the face of a new generation of Nigerian architects, young people who dared to dream and to act, who believed that architecture was meant to serve people, not just to generate profit. Her name appeared in prestigious magazines, not because of rumors, but because of her vision and her perseverance. Universities invited her to give lectures. She was no longer fighting alone. She had started a movement. In a corner of the ceremony, Chinedu watched quietly, a faint smile on his lips. He was no longer the heir to the Johnson Empire. His father had kept his word. He had cut all ties and disinherited him. But Chinedu had found something far more valuable. He started his own investment firm, smaller, more agile, and focused on projects with social value. He had learned a priceless lesson from Amina: the most sustainable profit comes from investing in people. He was still a sharp businessman, but now, every number on his spreadsheet had a story, a human meaning, behind it. After the ceremony, Amina found him standing by the riverbank. "Thank you, Chinedu," she said softly, "for everything." "I should be the one thanking you, Amina," he replied, turning to her. The cold, calculating look in his eyes was gone, replaced by warmth and sincerity. "You taught me how to see a city with my heart." They stood together in silence for a long moment. There were no passionate declarations of love, no fiery embraces. Love, if it was there, was not their final goal. Their relationship had been forged in adversity, built on a foundation of mutual respect and a shared purpose. It was deeper and more enduring than a typical romance. Their story didn't end with a perfect wedding. It began with a meaningful partnership. They were often seen walking together through the revitalized alleys of Isale Eko, an architect with ideals and a businessman with vision. They would debate passionately about what materials to use for the new market or how to build a safe playground that still preserved the old architectural style. They were two seemingly opposite pieces that, when joined together, created a complete picture. Together, they weren't just rebuilding a neighborhood. They were reshaping the soul of Lagos, a city that was both modern, reaching for the world, yet always embracing and cherishing the values, the very heartbeat of its own heart.